Consider 3-point charges located at the corners of the right triangle, as shown in the figure below, where Q1 is equal to 6 times 10 raised to negative 9 coulomb, Q2 is equal to negative 2 times 10 raised to negative 9 coulomb, and Q3 is equal to 5 times 10 raised to negative 9 coulomb. Find the resultant force acting on charge Q3. So una natin gagawin ay i-determine natin yung direction ng electrostatic force on charge Q3 due to these two charges. So the force exerted by Q1 on Q3 is called force F1 to 3. So dahil parehas po silang positive, magkakameron po tayo ng repulsive force. Kaya po siya ay palayo. And then the force exerted by Q2 on Q3 is called force F2 to 3. So makikita natin na papunta siya sa kaliwa kasi yung positive charge Q3 po ay attracted doon sa negative charge Q2. Sunod, kunin natin yung magnitude ng force F1 to 3 and force F2 to 3 using the definition of Coulomb's law. And that is, for F13, we have Ke, Coulomb constant, multiplied by charge Q1 times charge Q3, divided by the distance between charge Q1 and charge Q3. Now let's plug in the values. For the Coulomb constant Ke, we have 8.99 times 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb squared, multiplied by the magnitude or absolute value of charge Q1, which is equal to 6 times 10 raised to negative 9 coulomb. And then, multiplied by charge Q3, 5 times 10 raised to negative 9 coulomb. So again, absolute value po ang gagamitin natin. Divided by the distance between Q1 and Q3. So yung distance between Q1 and Q3 ay yung hypotenuse ng ating triangle. So given yung dalawang side ng triangle, so para makuha natin yung kanyang hypotenuse, gagamitin natin yung Pythagorean theorem, and that is square root of 4 meter squared plus 3 meter squared, which is equal to 5 meters. So this is divided by 5 meters squared. Okay? So the magnitude of force F1 to 3 is equal to 1.08 times 10 raised to negative 8 Newton. For the magnitude of force F2 to 3, that is equal to Ke times charge Q2 times charge Q3 divided by the distance between Q2 and Q3. Okay, now plug in the values. We have 8.99 times 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb squared, multiplied by 2 times 10 raised to negative 9 Coulomb for charge Q2. Again, absolute value po yung gagamitin natin. Kasi ang kinukuha natin ay yung magnitude ng electric force. Multiplied by charge Q3, which is equal to 5 times 10 raised to negative 9 coulomb, divided by the distance between Q2 and Q3. So based on illustration, ang distance ni Q2 kay Q3 ay 4 meters. So i-divide natin siya kay 4 meters. So 4 meters squared. So ang magnitude po ng ating force F2 to 3 ay equal sa 5.62 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton. Okay? Next, para makuha naman natin yung resultant force on charge Q3, gagamitin naman natin yung vector notation or yung vector addition rather. Okay? So si force F1 to 3, kung makikita natin, siya ay naglalay between X and Y axis. So kukunin natin yung kanyang components. So along X, meron tayong force F1 to 3 and along Y, we have force F1 to 3Y. Okay? And then mag-draw tayo ng broken line para maka-form tayo ng isang rectangular plane. So dito makikita natin na itong angle nito ay equal sa angle nito. So ibig sabihin kung ang opposite side po nito with respect to this angle po ay 3 meters din po ito. Okay? And then kung 4 meters po ang kanyang adjacent side, 4 meters din po ang adjacent side dito. At kung ang hypotenuse po nito ay 5 meters din po ang hypotenuse dito. Okay? Now, let's determine the summation of forces along X and summation of forces along Y by using vector addition. Okay? So, summation of forces along X, that is equal to force F2 to 3 along X plus force F1 to 3 along X. So, in this case, makikita natin lie along x-axis si force F2 to 3 at papunta siya sa kaliwa. So, we have here negative 5.62 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton plus yung horizontal component ng ating force F1 to 3, and that is equal to 1.08 times 10 raised to negative 8 Newton multiplied by the definition of cosine, okay, that is adjacent over hypotenuse. So dito ang ating adjacent nga ay yung 4 at ang hypotenuse natin ay yung 5. Okay? So summation of forces along X is equal to 3.02 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton. Okay? Kunin naman natin yung forces along y-axis. So we have here force F2 to 3y plus force F1 to 3y. So yung magnitude ni force F to 3y ay equal sa 0 Newton. Bakit? Kasi makikita natin, naka-plot lang siya along x-axis. So ibig sabihin, ang kanyang vertical component ay equal sa 0. Plus, yung vertical component ni force F1 to 3, and that is equal to 1.08 times 10 raised to negative 8 Newton multiplied by the definition of sine. Ang definition ng sine natin is opposite over adjacent. So ang opposite nga natin dito ay yung 3 meters at ang ating ang hypotenuse ay yung 5 meters. So summation of forces along y, that is equal to 6.48 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton. Now that we have the summation of forces along x and along y, we can now calculate the magnitude of electrostatic force or electric force exerted on Q3 by using Pythagorean theorem. And that is force is equal to square root of summation of forces along x squared plus summation of forces along y squared. Now let's plug in the values. We have square root of 3.02 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton squared plus 6.48 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton squared. So the magnitude of resultant force on charge Q3 is equal to 7.15 times 10 raised to negative 9 Newton.